So this is cool. I get to sit down and interview my amazing, beautiful wife. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna interview you. We're gonna talk about the road, the music industry. 17 years of marriage, is it, or 18?
I think 18.
18. Okay.
We kind of lost track.
We dated for 5, so 23.
Yes. It's been a long time.
But we were working on music stuff together. Like you were helping me with design and all that stuff since 99, probably 2000.
Yeah, when I was still in graphic design school, I was designing Misled Youth.
Yes.
I had no idea what I was doing, but that was your first project, and it was crazy. I literally had to figure my way how to do it while I was doing it.
Yeah, I remember. I forget her name. That
Natasha.
Natasha was helping us get the artwork set up, and what did we put on the CD, and I remember just doing the photo shoot in the skate park and all that stuff, and we weren't even married yet then.
Yeah.
And now what? 20-something years later, 22 countries toured.
Yeah.
And we're still doing music, and you're still doing the art, the design, the logos, and just helping, push this thing forward, and we're still doing it. When I think back, did you ever think we would be doing what we're doing, and still
I
impacting?
did.
Yeah.
I literally pictured the exact life we're living. That's what I knew we were going towards. And I remember when we were dating, it was I was dating this guy, and it was kind of I knew you were into music, you had a band, music, path that you're working on, but I didn't really know how serious it was going to get. But I remember there was this one moment where we were you're dropping me off at home one night, and it was yeah, we need to talk. Things are getting a little bit more intense now.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was that moment where you were you can, this is your moment to have an
escape.
out.
Yeah. You can leave this relationship.
Unless you want to be a part of this crazy life that we're going to be living.
Yeah.
And I remember I was out, I'm so in, because I remember it was at that point we've been maybe, I don't know, dating for maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And by then I'd already started, traveling locally with you and the guys, and sleeping on the floors, and it was just kind of I was already in, trying to figure out what my part was.
Yeah.
And by then it was sort of our dream in a weird way, although I wasn't a musician, still not a musician, but it became part of my dream too.
Well, if you remember our very first USA tour, official tour, I think it was that Grand Prize tour where we flew into Vegas.
Yeah.
And we were on a tour bus.
Yeah.
And we had our own bunk. We had our own thing, when we would set up merch.
We thought we made it, I think.
Yeah.
It was you are a rock star,
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to be
on
that
tour. It was kind of cushy and all that stuff, because all the other tours weren't like that. I can't remember if Ireland was after that. I think it was, actually.
Yeah, I think it was. That was our first big American tour. I think we were married for a short time at that point.
Yeah.
Because our first official tour was Newfoundland.
Right.
On a bus with 18 people.
Yeah.
But then shortly after that was Grand Prize, and we did that tour, and we flew into Vegas, and it was this is real,
Yeah.
We're actually really doing this, and all of our friends and family thought we were kind of crazy. We didn't have real jobs, We were we had a mortgage, and we're kind of nuts when you think about it.
Yeah, it was a step of faith and just stepping out. And I remember I was nervous in a lot of different ways. I don't remember being stressed out about the money so much as I think just new territory. Were you?
I think I probably was, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was more excited than stressed out. And I think our youth, how young we were and ignorant, I think that kind of helped.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what we had to lose. We didn't know, this could actually not go okay.
We never missed a mortgage payment, though. We borrowed from the credit line.
The credit line became our friend.
Yeah.
You live, you learn.
And then you came off the road. You came off the road. You had your job. I was still touring like crazy and not making a lot of money. I don't even remember that one tour. I think we bought onto it during Christmas. And I wasn't paid much, and this is during the Glory album before Japan had happened. I guess we can talk about that, but I remember coming home right before Christmas around. I barely made any money. I think we lost money.
Yeah.
And I had to go back to my IT job, and you were paying the bills. What were you thinking? I think I don't know if you were even doing the modeling then or not, but you were supporting this broke arse musician. Like, were you like, okay, dude, you gotta stop. Like,
Yeah, it got kind of scary at certain parts. I mean, I remember that Christmas. I remember we didn't have like anything, and I remember we had this little Christmas tree that we still own, and it's like this big.
Yeah.
And we had it on top of our TV, and that was when TVs were like thicker. You could put things on top of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember it was, you know, I don't know. It was crazy, and now that I think about it, it was like. I was just young. I was in my 20s.
You never discouraged me.
I was like up for the challenge. I don't know what. Like now, I think if this were to have started now, I'd probably be like, heck no.
Yeah.
Because I guess as you go on in life, you realize just how things can be. And obviously we have a daughter now, so things are different. But I don't know. I was just so like ready to go on risk and challenge and not be afraid of it, but it was crazy.
You can tell me now if you want, but were you thinking like, hey, you know, dude, like stop doing this and go back to your computer job? And
well, the cool thing about that is that again, like ignorance, right? So like you kind of eased out of your job, and then you went down to like, you know, 4 days a week, and then you went down to 3 days a week, and so like every weekend we'd be touring somewhere.
Yeah.
And like me, you and Jeff would be like going in the car and driving somewhere. But then as it got more and more, it was like, okay, now it came to the point where I left my job, you left your job. We did that both within 1 month of each other.
Yeah.
And I went full-time into modeling. You went full-time into music.
Yeah.
And because thankfully at that time I had money coming in, I was like okay with it.
Yeah, I was glad you had money coming in because I didn't have much money coming in.
Yeah, thank God. Like I was a sugar mama for a little while.
Yeah, I remember I'd go to the mailbox and there'd be like a check from mine. I'd be like, woo!
Yeah.
You know, like. Yeah. But like, even though like I wasn't bringing in a lot of money yet, like I feel like at least I hope you sense that I was working hard. Like I was trying to do everything I knew at least, like. Even if it was wrong, I was trying, right?
Yeah. And I think we were trying to like figure out, you know, who do we work with? Who helps us? Like, do we get a manager? Do we get a label? Like, what does everybody do? Like, who helps and, you know, how does this work? And what should we maintain control of? And all those things were going on.
I remember on that same tour, that Christmas tour, and going back to my IT job, just for like they called me in to do a few hours just to pay the bills to keep this thing going, right? Because it's like, you know, it was always in between tours, and that was kind of the only way I was able to make money. And I can't remember when, like, I remember it was like on the edge, like should we keep doing this? And this is when we lived in the tiny condo, and that's where Japan happened. Like that's where, you know, I wasn't home when I got the call. I was on tour in Texas when we found out we were selling 10,000 albums a week.
Yeah, that was like this, like, and it was during Glory.
Yeah.
And honestly, in that whole season of time, I remember listening to like a lot of preaching. We're like trying to really get close to God. Yeah. And we were like really asking God for wisdom, like what do we do next? Like every step was like a step of faith. Like every dollar we spent towards this thing was like a crazy step of faith, and it would be money we'd be taking away from our bill money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Grocery money, like, and so it was crazy. But then when Japan came in, we were like, "Thank you, God!" Like, it was like this breath of fresh air, because there's no way we could have controlled that, and it literally felt like God did that. Because we weren't even reaching out to Japan, so it was just an interesting time in history. And then we toured there, and I remember us going with some friends, and it was just like the best time ever. Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of Glory, I don't know if you know this, or maybe I'm sure I called you crying, but when that album released, I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Yeah. There was a CD release show in a Hot Springs, big market, and we were supposed to have like an in-store signing when you're supposed to go in and sign the CDs, and I remember we went to the in-store signing. The people didn't know about it or whatever. Nobody showed up. Yeah. I play, and this is the day of the album that we just put our blood, sweat, and tears into.
Yeah, that was hard,
And nobody showed up, barely anybody at the show.
Well, the store clerks were there, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was nice of them that they came.
I'll never forget, like, just really asking myself, like, what the heck am I doing? Like, God, why am I here? Why am I, like if there was a time to quit, honestly, it was right then. And I'm sure I called you like discouraged, and I don't know where we went from there, but I was away from you a lot.
Yeah.
And then, but like, who knew Japan would happen months, I don't know how many months later, maybe 6-7 months later it must have been.
Yeah.
I don't remember that would have been in July. Might not have been until next year for all I know. Yeah, it must have been, because if I did that show in July, because it was around my birthday, I
think we went to Japan in the fall. I'm pretty sure it was the fall we went to Japan.
The next year, maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I remember it being kind of cooler here.
But talk about like, lows, highs, and this roller coaster.
Well, it is a roller coaster. Like, if you're going full-time into music, it is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You kind of have to know that and be okay with it.
Yeah.
There's certain like career things with every job, every type of career path, and honestly, music is it's a ride. It's not for the faint of heart, as they say, but it's true. Like, you either have to love it and want to do it, or not. And I know people can do it part-time. They can do it on the side of whatever they're doing, like their day job. That happens. A lot of people do that. But when you're going full-time into it, and you need this to become your full-time money and your full-time income and all that, and your career, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And your family goes on that ride with you. So if you're married, if you have kids,
and that's one of the things I feel like that's one of the reasons why we, I don't want to say survived, but like it would have been 10 times harder if we had kids. Probably wouldn't have happened. Maybe, I don't know.
And like we weren't really feeling to have kids for like, 10
time.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we got married, like I was 22, you were 24.
Yeah.
So, we weren't really ready mentally, and gosh, like we weren't ready. So, but we toured the world for the first 10 years, and then we had our little London, so.
What would you do differently if we could go back? What would you change?
That's a really good question. I probably would have figured out how to handle our money better.
Yeah.
Because I think that put more pressure on us, and that actually made it a bit more difficult to be together.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we, the hard things was that we spent so much time apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of missed birthdays, anniversaries, like even holidays sometimes.
Yeah.
And that,
weddings.
family events, stuff like that. And I think I would have, if I could go back in time, take what I know now about, just how to set up our finances better.
Yeah.
And if anyone's watching this, like just how to like structure things to give yourself way more margin financially so that you can take the risks. Because like you're going to take a risk no matter what. You're putting your art into the world. Like people are going to either love it or some people will love it, some people won't, right?
Yeah.
And the hope is that enough people love it to make it a career.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, it's like there's that roller coaster ride that happens for a while, and there's no such thing as an overnight success. So I think that would be what I would say is trying to figure that out first.
Yeah.
And like kind of create a bit more cushion. Like we both jumped and like left our jobs.
Yeah.
Like in faith, and I think it was in faith.
Yeah.
But I think that faith could have been a bit wiser.
Yeah, it's like I could have kept my job still. We could have done more leave of absences. And maybe not done so many taken all the tours, toured smarter.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
And like I think about just the different opportunity. Like it's like sometimes we just took every opportunity because we were desperate, as opposed to there's some like that maybe we shouldn't have done. Like, honestly, Denmark was fun, but it wasn't good money. It wasn't really focused exposure.
Yeah.
You got sick. We were sleeping on the floors.
We slept on concrete in Denmark.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't know, I kind of love Denmark. Like a lot of cool things happened internally with me.
Yeah.
It really shifted my focus in a lot of ways. And sure, it wasn't like a winner financially, or it wasn't like a great tour in certain ways, but it really, first of all, my whole business name happened there.
Right.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah, it was up there. I didn't know.
So I had a real God moment in Denmark.
VisionCityArt.com.
Yeah, that's kind of where I had a lot of prayer. And honestly, I probably was praying a lot because it was such a rough tour. And I was like, dear God, help me get through this
tour. We weren't selling a lot until,
it was rough.
Near the end, all of a sudden we started to sell stuff. And I feel like this is like the theme of a lot of stuff. Like it doesn't always, like we get excited about stuff and you put it out in the world, you want everybody to react. But sometimes they don't react, or they definitely don't react right away.
Yeah.
Like I know we keep talking about glory, but like, you know, just because one certain amount of people didn't blow it up right away, sometimes it has to be in a different market or has to be exposed to the right people.
Yeah.
You have to get it, you have to market it and get it out there.
Yeah, you have to kind of find out who are the people that you want to connect with your music, and then find out where they hang out.
Yeah.
You know, those two things, who they are, where they hang out.
Yeah.
I think those two things answer a lot
Yeah.
when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
And then you can just think about them. You know, you're thinking about them when you're writing. You're thinking about them when you're in the studio.
And you do design. Like, we always did things, like, I feel like we always tried to do them as quality as possible. Like, with the design, the packaging.
Yeah.
We always did that, right? But that's, like, do you consider that marketing? I don't really consider it necessarily marketing. I think it's part of the marketing. But it's like you could have this beautiful thing, but if nobody is seeing it, right? Like,
yeah, it's sort of like designing the product. Like, you're taking your art, your music, and you're packaging it into something that's going to be memorable, something that's going to be connecting to your audience. So it's about creating a face for it, you know?
Yeah.
Physically, online, and it's something that people can connect to visually.
Yeah.
Because music is not just something to listen to.
Yeah.
Like, if that were the case, then people wouldn't want to see you perform or see you in a music video or see you on the album cover or whatever.
Yeah, they see you before they hear you.
They see you before they hear you in a lot of cases. And so I don't know if I would agree with you on the whole, it's not marketing. I think it's a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
It's not the whole pie. It's sort of like when you create a logo for yourself, as any business.
Yeah.
That's part of the branding.
Right.
It's not the whole brand.
Yeah.
So the whole brand or the whole feeling you're trying to create is all of it. It's the emotion, it's the sound, it's the feeling you give people in the show, the experience, the live experience. Like, it all kind of goes together.
Yeah. Do you remember how many photo shoots we did for that cover for Glory? Like, I remember we did like multiple, and then we finally you nailed it.
Yeah, and we always fight on a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Or almost doing anything on
like
creative.
literally anything to do with the music photo shoot, we always have a scrap. And it's so funny because right when we're like both so annoyed with each other because I have an idea, you definitely have an idea, and you're like a control freak. So you're like, you know, it's true.
Yeah.
I can tell him, you know, them that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, right at that moment when you're like wanting to have your say and I want to have my say, that's when something cool happens. And then we're like, we got it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this breaking point. And
I know. You know, it's like but we've learned to, you know, really work together on that stuff, and it's been a very cool partnership in that way. And, you know, we stayed together, and maybe speak, like, I know this is, you know, we're shooting this on Valentine's Day. I don't know when people are going to watch
Valentine's
it.
Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. You shared this with me a little bit when I left to go on tour right after we were married, and of course you were younger. You were like, you said you like had a migraine and you were sick, and maybe you thought like I would cheat on you or something. Well,
okay, so we just gotten married. I was working in this random corporate job that was like a temp job, and I was like trading stocks, which is hilarious because I'm an artist and nobody as an artist should trade stocks. That's another story. So I'm there and I'm working, and you had just left on tour, the very first tour ever. Like that, you were really leaving me. Like you were going for like a month or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had all this internal fear and like emotion about it, and I knew that like I loved you, and I know you loved me, and I knew that we were, you know, we dated for 5 years, for goodness sakes, right? We're now married. So I'm like, you know, come on, Melanie, get over yourself. You're fine. But the body has a different way of dealing with stress, especially emotional stress. And so all of a sudden I'm like having a migraine. I never had a migraine in my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, had to keep my eyes closed. I'm in like some dark room in an office. I'm like, what is going on? But yeah, I was definitely afraid. And all the thoughts, man. Like you think about rock tours, like, and all the groupies and whatever, like all that stuff.
And it would happen with other artists. Didn't happen with us, but we knew it happened, right?
Oh yeah, and we didn't even really know it yet, but like anybody with a brain would think that. Like, so I was just like, oh man, you know, what am I signing up for? Like, we're young, like, you know, like, So it was a scary moment for me, for sure.
I remember sometimes you would call, or I would call, and if there was a fan or anyone in the background or someone else, one of my buddy's wives, you'd be like, who's that in the background there, you know?
Yeah, I went through a bit of that, yeah. But I remember I was actually with my good friend Mariana, and we were just hanging out, and I knew you were on tour. And then her and I were talking about it, and then her and I just kind of, it's like she was pumping me up, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a hype man, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, man, you're like the catch, you know? She like pumped me up. God bless that girl. And she's like, girl, any guy that would cheat on you is a loser, you know? And so I was like, yeah, that's true. And so I was kind of, it just like, I don't know, I clicked a switch that day, and I remember I talked to you that night or something, and I was like, yeah, I just feel so much better after talking to her, and this is why you need good friends, because honestly, or I could have had a friend being like, girl, you don't know what he's doing on tour.
Yeah.
You don't know.
She could have planted seeds.
She could have planted seeds, and I had a few other people, like I worked in fashion, and I'll never forget this one makeup artist was like, well, you know, guys are on tour. And I was like, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, like, why would you say that to me? I'm a young woman, I'm just married, like, but anyway, yeah. And
but we said
people like to put their experiences on you, and it's not necessarily the case. So
yeah, because I'm a band guy and because I'm a hip hop rock artist, that's what we do. We just cheat. Let alone, you know, after the shows when anybody else would go out, I'd go back home and listen to preaching.
Yeah.
And be alone in my room and.
Then we set some boundaries. Like I remember, you know, we talked about this and. And even when I'd be out on tour, I'd be standing right there, and girls would walk up to you with these like big chested girls, and they'd be like, "Can you sign my skin?"
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Really?
Yeah.
Really? Do you not see that I'm standing right here?"
Yeah.
But they don't know who I am. They think I'm like the merch girl, right?
Yeah.
So we set some boundaries. Like we don't hug, we don't sign skin.
Yeah.
We never hang out with anyone alone. Like,
duh. Like, just avoid.
Just like clear things you don't do. And even our band members, like, guys, don't ever hang out with anyone alone in some random back rooms. Like,
just don't put yourself in a situation where
don't put yourself in a situation where you can be accused of stuff. Like, it's crazy.
People love to, you know, point out things when they're not in the situation and say, oh, I can't believe they did that. But then, you know, you start thinking you're, you know, haughty or whatever, you could never cheat or whatever, and you all of a sudden find yourself in a scenario and you're doing things that you would never do. And drinking was another one of the things we didn't, you know, I'm not saying I never had a drink, but I never got drunk so that to avoid doing something that I would never do when sober, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And and those boundaries are so important. I believe that's why we're still together and, you know, have our relationship, obviously, because we didn't cheat, but like just having a vision and wanting to grow together. And I think part of it too, and we can talk about this a bit, is that, you know, we were working together on stuff. Even though we were apart at times, we were still working together. And I think a lot of spouses, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that a lot of women just don't support their husbands. A lot of men don't support their women, you know?
I think that goes, that's really, I'm glad we're talking about this, because I think that goes two ways, right? So say, for example, you and I were married and you were doing your own thing, but you like never included me. Like maybe you never even told me about it, or you never allowed me into that side of your life.
Right.
But in our case, because we were like always talking about this, and frankly, that's kind of how you were when I met you. It was like you were already doing music. This is what you were about. You're a skater. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was naturally going to be pulled into those things.
Yeah.
But I think it goes both ways. Like, people could say, well, my spouse doesn't support me, but it's like, are you inviting them in to be a part of your thing, whatever your music is or your art form? So I think it goes both ways in that. And I think allowing the spouse or the, you know, partner to be a part in some way. So like for me, it was a natural fit because I was in design school. I was learning how to design things. So naturally I started to design your covers and your, you know, shirts and your skateboards and stuff. So it was kind of like I had a place.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you don't feel like you have a place,
right? If
I can't have anything to offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's how spouses feel. I mean, it's hard for me to know, right? Everyone's different, but.
So not only were you not discouraging me, you came along board and helped and invested, and that's a completely different conversation than someone dragging you down. And I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this and they don't have their spouse encouraging them. In fact, they're discouraging them, And I believe there could be different reasons for that, though. You know, like I feel like there is a lot of musicians, unfortunately, that I've seen that chase the music dream, but they're I don't want to say dumb about it, but they're just not like being wise or the way they're approaching it. It's kind of like a pipe dream in a sense, but it's like I would never discourage anyone from going for their dreams. But you know what I'm talking about, like
I get
like
that.
it's like they're not thinking about it in a business. It's kind of like hoping it could happen, but they're not doing all the successful actions.
And there's totally a place for like hobby, right?
Right.
Like if you want to play in like, clubs on weekends or whatever, or if you want to play, I don't know, at the local shop or whatever, that's cool. You invite
it's fun.
Your
it's a
wife,
hobby.
your husband, whoever out and make it like that. But if you're like quitting your day job, and you're married and you're in a committed relationship or whatever, and whatever your partner, then it's like you absolutely need to allow them in. Because number one, here's the thing, like no matter how your career goes, whether it goes up or down, do you want this person to still be with you? So if you make it, and do you want to make it and be alone, or do you want to make it and still have this person that you care about in the story? And so I think it's sort of, that's kind of the way I would maybe encourage people to think about it. And allow people into it, and just share it with them, And some people are going to get it and other people won't, and that's okay. But allow people to have, like, it's almost you have to respect that other person's feelings about it.
And just have, sometimes you just got to have tough, honest conversations and get on the same page, and that's why communication and, even before we started dating, we were like hanging out a little bit, and then I pull over the car and I'm like, yo, so,
you're like really straight up. Like, Chris has always been like, like almost obnoxiously straight up. Like, in a good way. And like, I remember we were hanging out, we were just starting to date, and you're like, you pulled over the car on the side of the road. You're like, so what's up? I'm like,
you're kissing me and stuff, so geez, like I think that's a little bit more than hanging out.
Yeah, we're more than friends. So what? Are we like a couple now? And I was like, oh, I guess. It was kind of one of those like, you always wanted to know exactly where I stood. But I kind of like that because I think a lot of guys, in general, I mean, I was really young when I met you, but any boyfriends I had, they were like afraid to ask me questions or to talk to me. So I think it's important to
just be cool.
Be open and talk to people. Talk to your person. Like, this is your person. Like, especially if you're in a serious relationship, you're dating, whatever. It's more casual. But if you're actually getting into a commitment with somebody, then you deserve to know if they're in on this, and they deserve to know what they're getting into. Because like if they like marry you and then they're like, crap, I didn't sign up for this. That's like a recipe for like divorce court, man. Like, get me out of here. So it's like you want to know what you're signing up for.
Date before you marry, and I say that with the labels. People want to get signed or get into this relationship with someone. Manager, it's like, and you even tell me to slow down on this stuff.
I feel like the number one advice I have for you in life is slow down.
Slow down, because I like to go fast. I like to run into walls and make mistakes, and learn the hard way. So, but we balance each other, and it's good. And and it's so cool that we get to work on the Manifest stuff, the Vision City stuff, the Smart Music Business stuff, and now even helping other artists share about some of the art stuff that you're doing for artists, visioncityart.com, and the packages and stuff like that, and we'll close out with that stuff.
So I mean, I've always designed for music, clearly. But there's been different kind of times in life where it's kind of come and gone, but lately I've been really focusing on it again, and I'm actually designing some special packages for music artists. So whether you're in a band or you're an artist yourself, and so it's a really great way to kind of get a whole bunch of design pieces or assets at once. So like album cover, single cover, and then different elements and assets you're going to need for online, like your banners, your Facebook banners, your Instagram posts, pre-save stuff, thumbnails, and like t-shirts, like things. So instead of just being like, oh cool, here's a cover, it's actually going to be like something that you can do to actually have all, like, you on your launch day for your album or your single, it's going to be everywhere at one time.
Yeah.
I think that's how you create more impact, when you create a really big wave rather
Yeah.
than like a little ripple.
Yeah.
So
That's so good. That's visioncityart.com, right?
yeah, visioncityart.com.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me
Thanks
today.
for having me.
I hope,
Happy Valentine's.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Go to visioncityart.com to check out her stuff and get a package for your art, your design. Leave a comment below. Go communicate with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend and just talk. You know, just like we're having a natural conversation here, you know, decide where it is that you want to go and go there together. It's so much more fun chasing a dream together than you chasing something over here and over here. Not that people can't have two different dreams, but man, it's a lot more fun when we're working together.
Definitely.
Yeah. Peace, y'all.